Alright guys, Mike here. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 basic skills of finishing concrete. 4 of the most basic ones. Now there's more, but I just want to go over these 4 with you. And this video is going to be geared more towards beginners. If you're just learning how to do concrete, if you're working for somebody doing concrete and you're just a laborer and you're not a finisher yet, this will be a good video for you. If you're a DIYer, this will definitely be a good video for you. So one of the most basic skills for finishing concrete is running an edger and knowing how to run an edger. And the first thing you need to do is you need to know when to get on the concrete. So I got a video, I'll pop it up right here at the top of the screen, that tells you exactly when to know how to start finishing concrete, with the timing of this thing. But basically for me, it's when I can press my fingers into the concrete and they only sink in about maybe a 1/4 inch or so, 3/8 of an inch. That's when I know it's time to start running an edger. So as you can see, I press that edger down in against my board, against my form, and then I just run it back and forth. Sometimes the edge will have some imperfections in it, and when you go over it with the edger, maybe it doesn't quite fill all the imperfections in. So one way to fix that with the edger is you can just take your edger, you can scrape up a little bit of cream on the surface. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got all kinds of cream there on the edge now, and you can fill that cream right in on the edge like that, and it fills in any of the little imperfections. You don't have to worry about that. You're going to be magging that in and fixing it anyway, but that's how you fill in the imperfections going around the edge. Alright, now there's all kinds of edgers out there on the market. You know, that one you just saw was about a 4-inch wide edger by 6 inches long. These ones here that I'm teaching the girls how to edge is about 2.5 inches wide and about 6 inches long. So they're a little bit smaller edger. They're a little bit easier to learn with. Now I'm just teaching these girls today how to do this. So as you can see, for a beginner, I mean, you can pick it up in a day as long as you have a little bit of a basic understanding when to start, how to press it in against the form, you know, the motion you need back and forth. Now these edgers are slightly slanted upwards on each end. Some edgers out there on the market are just completely flat, and I feel like those tend to want to dig in a little bit more than these. You can see Abby's trying to figure out, you know, how to push those rocks down and run that edger up against the form and make that edge nice and smooth. But she's getting it. Now what she's doing, she's scraping up a little bit of cream. She's got a rock hole there on the edge, and she's figuring out how to fill that rock hole in with a little bit of the paste on the surface. So she just scraped a little bit up, put the paste right in the rock hole, and then ran the edger right over it. And you can see her pressing that in there. You don't want to edge when it's too wet. Otherwise the edge won't take the nice curve that you're trying to put on it from the edger. If it's too wet, you'll dig in too deep, and you'll just kind of make more of a mess than anything else. So you don't want to get on it when it's too firm either, because then it'll be hard to press that edge in there, and you'll really be struggling to get that nice round edge. You'll be trying to push those rocks back into the concrete, and the concrete will be too firm. So the timing of this is pretty important. This actually is perfect timing for this. Now these girls are just learning, so it may look like it's a little firm, but it's really not. It's really perfect. You can see Abby's getting that all figured out. She's getting around the corner, starting up on that other edge. You see how she's going back and forth, making sure it's nice and smooth. So now what we're doing, this is the next skill. It's cutting in a joint. And so Luke's got a little handheld jointer there, and basically, again, it's timing. You can see we haven't got an edge on this yet, so sometimes we'll do this a little bit earlier than when we edge. The concrete will be a little bit softer, so maybe you can press your fingers in 1/2 inch, 3/8 to 1/2 inch, to get these joints cut in. So he's just taking that and running it up against that screed board there, that aluminum screed, as a guide to make sure it stays nice and straight. And the reason he's pushing it up and down like that is because he's pushing the rocks down and side to side and he wants to bring up the paste right in that joint to make it look nice and smooth. He saved that paste right there, and to fill that, you can see sometimes when you push a rock down, it creates a dent or an indentation, and you got to fill that in with paste. So that's how he does it by hand. Now there's another way to do it too. If see what I'm doing is I'm measuring out where my joint's going. That way I can keep them all nice and straight. Now this here, this is like a walk behind joiner. You can put a handle on this if you can't reach out. And I have a mark up there on the wall. That's what I'm going by. And you can see kind of like that little bolt or that nail sticking up on that joiner. It's actually a bolt. I'm using that by eye to go to my mark, to keep that joint nice and straight. Now you want to make sure, you can see I haven't edged this yet, so it's even before we start edging is when we cut these joints in. But this is another skill set. That's one of the basic skills for finishing concrete is running joints in there. And the joints are just, they help the concrete crack. If the concrete wants to crack, it'll crack in that joint. And they also add some looks, some aesthetics to the concrete to make it look nice. You can see this piece is about 10 feet wide. The concrete's a little too wet to get on, to stand on or get on with knee boards, so it's a lot easier cutting the joint in with a tool like this. Get it in, cut it in early, and get your joints all in place. You can see you're going nice and slow. Make sure it stays nice and straight. I don't want to dig in anywhere. And again, this is not that wide. I could have put a straight edge on this and cut it in by hand. But if I have this tool, that eliminates that, and I don't even have to get on the concrete to do that, as long as I get on it early enough. If I don't get on it early enough to use this tool, then I got to cut it in by hand, because I can press down harder with my hand than I can with this tool. But that's as easy as it is for cutting joints. You just have to measure them out, make sure they get nice and straight, and then run that back and forth so you're filling in your rock holes. So the next basic skill, the third one we're going to talk about, is magging the surface, how to use a mag float. And you can see I've got the slab all edged, so we know the timing is right. We don't want to mag it too early. And again, I'll have a video pop up at the end of this video that shows you the timing on this. When to start finishing concrete is what it's called. So that'll be a really good video to watch to understand a little bit more about the timing. But I'm just trying to teach you the skill here. So you can see I've got my mag float. And that's a magnesium float. It's a metal one, but it's made out of magnesium, so it's nice and light. And I'm just tipping it one way, and then I'm tipping it back the other way when I move it, so I don't dig in. So I have a slight tilt to the mag, and I'm pushing down. I have some pressure. I'm pushing down on the surface a little bit, and as you can see, it's bringing up that nice paste to the surface. That's a little bit more moist than the part I haven't magged yet, because we're going to be running a broom over this to give it a broom finish. So we need to mag float the surface to make it nice and moist and have a really good creamy paste to it to make the brooms look really nice. So this is basically how you mag float. Now that mag float is actually a little longer than most people's. Most people use a 16-inch long mag float. That one's about 20. So you don't need one this long. You can use one a little bit shorter. Here, I'll show you in a minute. But this is personally the one I like to use when I'm doing a slab this size. You can see how nice and easy that mag floats when you get on it right at the right time. And this is another tool you can use to mag float the surface. This is called a funny float. And again, it goes on the end of a handle, so you can reach out to places you couldn't normally reach by hand or by arm's length. And this is just another tool to make your job a little bit easier, get things done a little bit faster, especially if they're in the sun like this. Concrete dries really fast when it's warm out and in the sun, so this is a good way to stay ahead of it If I didn't have this tool and I had to wait 10, 15, 20 more minutes, whatever, half an hour to get on this by hand, it would be a lot firmer, and I'd have to really hustle a little bit more, that's all. But by having this tool, it shortens that window. Now here's Darren using a regular 16-inch mag float, and he's using another mag float just to kind of just for some leverage, just to reach out there a little bit further. And you can see how he's just going back and forth, working up some pace, getting this ready for a broom finish, making the surface nice and smooth. So he's using 2 smaller mag floats, one for leverage and just one to mag with, to work up the cream on that, work up the paste. So what if the concrete's pretty firm and you can't do it with that funny float? It just won't work it up enough and you can't reach it by hand. Well, this is another way. You got to get on it with these concrete skids. So these skids, I call them, they're kind of like concrete snowshoes, right? They allow you to get on the concrete a little bit earlier than if you had to walk on it. Like if Luke got off those and stood on the concrete, he'd sink in, half, 3/4 of an inch probably. But by using those skids, he can kind of float across the surface, distributes his weight better, and allows him to get on that to mag float. And you can see that concrete has a little bit in the shade there up against the building and a little bit in the sun. So that part in the sun is going to dry a lot faster than that part in the shade. So we got to make sure we keep up with the part in the sun. And that's why he's out there mag floating that right now. Now the next skill we're going to talk about is broom finish, how to do a broom finish. Now this is relatively easy. We've got a 2-foot broom here with probably a medium coarse broom hair. And we're just setting it down nice and easy and pulling it straight back, nice and slow and easy and steady. We don't want to stop and start. Okay, we don't want to twist it. We don't want to pull it crooked. We just want to set the broom down. No matter what obstacle is behind you, you can see I got like a little dirt bank behind me. I got to make sure I go nice and steady and slow and nice and straight, or that's going to show up in your broom marks if you don't. Now they make all different kinds of brooms. They make ones with really fine broom hair on it. They make ones that are 4 feet wide, 6 feet wide, 8 feet wide. You can choose from all different kinds of brooms. I'll have a link down in the description for some brooms. Matter of fact, all these tools will be linked down in the description if you guys want to check them out. The edgers, the brooms, the joiners, the skids, all that stuff. But you can see how slow I'm pulling that broom across to get a nice broom finish. And here again, this will happen sometimes when you're new. So you set the broom down, maybe it slips, you dig in a little bit, and you don't want to broom right over that. That'll show. You got to mag float that, any little accidents back out, and then you just set the broom down nice and easy. You can see Abby there pulling it back nice and straight, focusing on what she's doing. Good job. Again, she was just learning that day how to do that, so you guys can do that. So once you're done, now you can do your finished groove mark if you want, your joiner mark, and leave that in there. And a lot of times we do, and a lot of times we don't. It's whatever you prefer. Now I'm putting the finish edger mark on. So if you like that picture frame look, then you can do this. If you don't, if you want to just leave it broomed, you can do that too. It's whatever you prefer to do. But you got to make your decision up, because you only have a very small window of time to do this in when you're out in the sun like this. You got to do it right after you broom usually. And you can see Darren's just going along the form, putting the finished edger mark on it, making sure it's nice and smooth and clean looking. And those are the skills, guys. Those are the basic skills for doing concrete for beginners. And this is what it looks like when you're done. You got the finished joiner mark, the finished edger mark. Well, check out the videos I got popping up here, guys. They'll help you out. They'll help you learn some more, and we'll see you on the next one.